Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today an anonymous donor asked me to play a Myth Realized deck of my choosing, and I have settled on Myth Disco Pox. Buckle up, this one is going to require an explanation. So let's start with the disco part. Fear of resistance looks like a disco ball, alright? That part's easy enough. Let's go to kind of the namesake card of the deck, though, which is Myth Realized. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you put a lore counter on this, or you can pay 3 mana to put a lore counter on it. For a single white mana, this can become a Monk Avatar Creature token, which has power and toughness equal to the number of lore counters on it. So this is a card that has seen play as a finisher in Pox and Miracles and sometimes Standstill decks as well. It is a little bit slow to ramp up, which is maybe not good in a world of like Murktide Regents and other similar cards that can kill you in about 2 turns. But when it does ramp up, this card is very, very strong for a very small mana investment. And actually, this has also seen some play in some Enchantress builds as well, now that I think about it. So we are going to use the traditional Pox shell of cards like Smallpox that you are trying to build around so that the downside is minimal to you. And that's what's going on with Myth Realized. Smallpox makes you sacrifice a creature, amongst other things, but Myth Realized is not a creature when it is not animated. So the idea is your opponent is sacrificing a creature and losing some life, discarding a card, yada, 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 but you are trying to break symmetry on that. And part of the way we're doing that is just by running a ton of mana sources. So if I drag these all to this column, this is 26 lands. There's a little bit of an asterisk there because like Tabernacle doesn't produce mana unless you have an Urborg there, because like this doesn't actually have a like tap activated mana ability of any kind. And we are going to be playing a couple copies of Crucible of Worlds, so that after we discard our lands and sacrifice our lands, we can kind of rebuy them from the graveyard. We do have a handful of other things as the supporting cast here. When I last played this deck, I don't think Urza's Saga had been printed yet, and so I'm going to try to funnel that card into this deck, and there's a 4th copy hanging out down here. The card's just really powerful, and I think it fits in well with the plan. It's a disappearing land, which I don't like, but we're playing Crucibles anyway, so like there's that. And kind of the biggest thing that I like here is that this finds Retrofitter Foundry. Retrofitter Foundry can repeatedly make 1/1s. You know what doesn't really care if you sacrifice them? A bunch of 1/1 servo tokens or Thopter tokens or whatever. So I think that card is probably going to be pretty strong. So we kind of have this game 1 plan of like deny our opponent mana with Smallpox, Sphere, or we can even just like vindicate their lands while otherwise disrupting them. And then in the post sideboard games, we can try to kind of tune our deck to attack the specific problems that we're looking for, trimming whichever portion of our deck is the worst. So in the left-hand column here, I have all of my cards for kind of the unfair matchups where my opponent is doing combo things. And of course, we have Chains of Mephistopheles, which does stuff. The short version is that the blue player's cantrips are not going to work well with this thing in play. And then we have some stuff for the fair matchups. I busted out some really old tech of Felidar Retreat. I thought it sounded cute for this deck list since we're trying to play a bunch of lands from our graveyard anyway. So we can get a cat beast every time we play a land, or we can put a +1/+1 counter on each creature we control and give them vigilance, which vigilant large construct tokens sounds pretty fun to me. I am excited to play this league. It will be a lot of fun. Our games will probably spiral in one direction or the other, where I will either crush my opponent or they will crush me. That's a lot of times how the matchups go. Like, when your deck is doing its thing and you're playing Pox and, like, you get ahead, you're usually in a really good spot, right? But it's when you fall behind and your opponent does something early, kind of sneaks something on board that you can't answer, that, like, it sometimes becomes problematic. And that's why we're playing 4 Sudden Edicts in the main deck. This has become a mainstay of mono black decks. This just says no to something like a Murktide Regent without being able to be countered. Now, there is the caveat there that like this just makes them sacrifice a creature, so if they have a Delver or something as a shield, it can be awkward. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and just jump into the league here. If you're new here and you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing. And if you're a regular, please throw me a like or a comment. Those sorts of things help me out the most for free. Let's battle. Bill from the future here. If you have time for one round, I recommend round 3 versus the mono black deck. All right, I think I'm going to have a strong mana denial hand here. I think I will just be keeping this one. Kind of the big question is, like, do I just play a Myth Realized on turn 1, or do I just jam a Sphere? I'm always playing Mox Diamond and discarding Tabernacle. Like, that's just happening. Then it's close. I think I'm going to deploy this, because if I don't, it may become awkward to deploy this over the rest of the game. Like, the Sphere of Resistance is just, like, very, very good blind. But, like, playing Sphere and following it up with Wasteland is still just really good next turn. Ooh, nice. Also nice. I think this is Wasteland. Play Wasteland, just destroy that now. Then this cannot be dazed. We'll always yield to that. And see if my opponent has a force effect. They do. So, situation's still pretty good. Not as good as it would have been had that, like, Sphere resolved, but still pretty good. The big question here is, like, am I going to Smallpox my opponent and destroy another land, or am I just going to, like, play Urza's Saga and try to ride that to victory? Holy moly. That's a draw. I think that makes me want to play Urza Saga, play Sphere, and just try to ride Saga to victory. And if something goes wrong, I can still have access to the Smallpox. Let's try to bully the best deck in the format with Pox. Right? That's what we're here to do. I think everyone can agree. Oh, shit. Yeah, I missed 2 points of damage by clicking the wrong button there. All right. Such is life. Okay, more land, always good. Do I want to animate the Myth Realized this turn and potentially trade it for a Lightning Bolt? I don't really care about the Myth Realized right now, so I think that's fine. Really wish I didn't miss that 2 points of damage last turn, though. Okay, yeah, here's the Lightning Bolt. That's fine. Oh, no Lightning Bolt. That's better. Opponent might do a end of turn Brainstorm or something. Yeah. They might need to just smooth out their draw. Okay. Wasteland's very good for my opponent. That'll force my Urza Saga activation. My thing's only a 3/3, which means it's lightning boltable, which isn't really the best for me. There is a Murktide Regent. I do have a Smallpox to answer that, and this can't be destroyed, or this can't be countered due to my Sphere. I think the Myth Realized is better than the Construct token, and is probably sacrifice the Scrubland. Let's go 1/2. Smallpox, paying the extra for my Sphere. Me a counter on the Myth Realized. And that's good enough for a concession. All right. All right, so my 2 points of damage did not cost me that game, which is nice. What do I want out of my sideboard here? I want this Swords to Plowshares. Soul Guide Lantern is okay as a way to deal with their graveyard. I don't know that I'm going to want that. Probably play Chains to mess with my opponent's cantrips. Plague Engineer is okay. I'm going to kind of see what I want to cut. I essentially want to be playing Removal. So this could be a time where I junk for Thoughtseize and then just, like, be on the kill your stuff and deny you mana plans. This will leave me with how many removal spells? Counting the Smallpox, that's 15 removal spells. plus an honorary Cabal Pit and Tabernacle to help out with that. That sounds pretty good. I want Pithing Needle for Wasteland in this matchup a lot. Soul Guide's okay. First Lantern's okay if my opponent's graveyard is under control, which I don't think it's going to be in this matchup. Oh, this is 59. Okay, if this is 59, do I play 1 Thoughtseize, 1 Plague Engineer, 1 Soul Guide Lantern, 1 First Scroll? I think 1 Soul Guide Lantern. I will just give myself the option to cut off the graveyard and shrink Dragon Rage Channeler. It's that or Curse Scroll to shoot Delvers. The Curse Scroll isn't great at shooting most of the rest of the threats. I will probably keep this hand as I have 3 removal spells and 4 lands. Despite the fact that I have this many lands, the mana is not the most stable here. Alright, so there are varying degrees of scariness to the starts. And in my opinion, like, turn 1 Dragon Rage Channeler is usually the scariest. Okay, Delver is a good start, but not as scary as Dragon Rage Channeler. Dragon Rage Channeler just fuels the Murktide Regent coming down sooner. Alright, Crucible. I do not want to play Scrubland this turn. I do not want to play Urza Saga this turn. If I play Karakas this turn, I can't play Untapped Castle Locthwain next turn. So I think I am just going to play tapped Castle Locthwain this turn. If I play tapped Castle Locthwain, I have the possibility of kind of pivoting on what land I play pretty hard. And this also gives me the option to cast a Smallpox if that's something I want to do. I think my first removal spell is just going to be Sudden Edict, just so that I, like, know that it resolves. Yeah. But there's worlds where that's not true. I'd like to draw a Mox, just so I can, like, Mox, probably discard Urza Saga, and just play Sudden Edict and clear this board. Another Sudden Edict. I don't think I'm ready for disappearing Urza Saga, given board. I think I'm just gonna play out Karakas here, and hope to Sudden Edict 2 turns in a row, in all likelihood. Multiple Wastelands would be very strong against what I'm doing right now. I guess that's probably what I'm most afraid of right now, is just, like, dying to creatures before I can get, like, this Crucible online and, like, start playing towards my long game. Alright. So this is Sudden Edict number 1, which I'm not sure which creature my opponent is going to sacrifice. I feel like it's the Delver. The Dragon Rage Channeler is just really valuable as this game goes on for fueling Murktide Regents and giving my opponent the selection that they need. Right? Because every time they go and just, like, cast a cantrip or something, they just get that, like, 1 card deeper look with Dragon Rage Channeler. And that is horrifying. Dragon Rage Channeler also, like, a good portion of the time attacks as a 3/3 the next turn. Because at the time, when they were making that decision, they had land, sorcery, and then Delver going to the graveyard would have been the creature. All they have to do is find any instant, and then, like, they're just good. That's a Valk to the graveyard, and Dragon Rage Channeler to exile. So I might be ending up in this, like, creature debt situation where I'm taking out 1 creature a turn, but my opponent, like, can play a creature a turn and keep up with that parity. Alright, I don't think I can play Vindicate into Daze. I need to play that around Daze. That feels very important here. I believe I will just be casting a Sudden Edict again. Alright, get one of those out. So a partial issue here is that, like, I haven't given my opponent a good, like, Force of Will target this game yet. So it's pretty likely that when I finally do cast something into, like, a Force of Will, that, like, my spell is just going to get countered. Fuck, they have another creature. Ooh. So that's going to be Mystic Sanctuary to put an Expressive Iteration back on top of their deck. Oh, alright, and a Delver. That's fine. Not great for me, it's fine. I think this now becomes the Vindicate turn. The next turn is the Smallpox turn. Yeah, I can't really deploy the Sphere of Resistance well here. And I am going to go ahead and fetch. I'm not happy about it. I will get a Scrubland. I'm already very wastelandable. Let's attempt to take out the Dragon Rage Channeler. Okay, that is a hard cast Force of Negation. I think that means I'm effectively dead. I'm going to take between 4 and 6 points of damage here. And then, like, at that point, I'm just dead to Lightning Bolt at any point of this game. There's an expressive iteration as well, yeah. Like, I'll take my 6, but I expect a good portion of the time my opponent just casts an expressive iteration this turn, finds a Lightning Bolt, and I'm dead to that. Ooh, opponent put Meltdown into Graveyard. That's very good to know about. I mean, I expected my opponent had it, but I didn't know if they actually had it in play. Yeah, I think with a third creature there, I have no outs anymore. Accordingly, I will show myself the door. Guard a Wasteland. At 0 life. Still alive, still alive. Wait for it. Oh, we discarded. Another Meltdown. I'll sacrifice a Swamp. And I will die. I don't think anything I've seen here is wanting me to make changes, although Plague Engineer becomes better on the play. I'm a little less sold on Plague Engineer than I am in the Dark Ritual-based decks, though. Like, in the Dark Ritual-based decks where you can just, like, throw that out faster, it's pretty good. But especially if I'm, like, looking to play Smallpox and Sphere of Resistance that are going to kind of work against it, I don't know that I really want to bring it in here. It's fine. My only black source is Wastelandable. I don't have black, and I don't have the lands to work with my Sphere of Resistances. I don't think that that is gonna cut it. This hand is quite good. I am going to keep this, and I think pitch my Urza's Saga here. I think I'm just in for the stability of my other lands here. So hopefully my Myth Realized on the play resolves. And I'm going to try not to expose this to Lightning Bolt since I pitched my other win condition with this hand. That would have been a very strong 7-card hand that I would have been extremely happy with. Alright. Just Ponder. No, don't do that. I don't like that. Yeah. This is the power of playing free stuff with Dragon Rage Channeler, right? You just get to take that immediate value. So I guess I'm happy it's not fueling my opponent's graveyard. So now I'll be faced with the choice of, like, do I play out the Sphere, or do I just play Swords to Plowshares? That draw makes me a little more inclined to just play out both of these spells before I drop the Sphere. Like, the thing about the Sphere is, like, it's better the sooner you put it into play, and the Sphere can protect the Swords to Plowshares from other removal spells. Like, it definitely can go either way. I think I'm going to try to double spell this turn and drop the Sphere next turn. So let's begin with Swords to Plowshares and just try to take out this creature. Alright, I am successful. Then I'll grab a Swamp to make next turn go a little more smoothly, and play out a map. Alright, did not get dazed immediately. The next turn I've got Sphere into attack with Myth Realized if it is safe to do so. Alternatively, I can also just, like, grab an Urza's Saga next turn. Ooh. That's really good right now. That's really good right now. Alright. Jam. Like, resolving this now just means my Sudden Edict is just, like, so much better later. Yeah, okay. I don't regret doing it. For the record. Yeah. And that sort of reason is why. Okay. So, my current plan is Sphere, attack for 4. There's some world where I pivot and, like, use my turn for Urza Saga instead. I don't think I'm going to do that, though. Because, like, casting this means that Myth Realized can successfully attack in this turn. Petty Theft on my Myth Realized. A little annoying, but it is what it is. Alright, my Sphere is in play. I'll use my 2 mana to go ahead and redeploy this. And now I need to draw some removal. Because opponent, like, assuming they can get this in play, is going to be attacking me for a pretty respectable amount of damage. There's worlds where I just Expedition map for a Cabal Pit, I suppose. I believe that requires Threshold. It's been a little while. I'll have to double check myself. All right, Brazen Borrower, let's shrink you down to a more reasonable size. I'm at 13. Opponent's got 4 cards in hand. One of them is a Force of Negation. Alright, let me check the text on Cabal Pit. Yes, it does require Threshold. What am I at? I'm at 3. Expedition Map can be 4. Am I powering through the Force of Negation by, like, making my opponent take action here? So just better to dedicate mana to Urza Saga. Where is my Curse Scroll currently? In my sideboard? Curse Scroll is currently in my sideboard, so I can't fetch that up to get Delver out of the way. Let's power through. Like, I'll play Lily. My opponent can't hardcast Force of Negation. They do have to, like, pitch a card to it because of my Sphere of Resistance that's in play. Alright, so I've gotten 2 cards out of that. I forget how many removal spells I have exactly. It was somewhere on the order of, like, 13. No, like 18 maybe? It's a lot. Like, I'm top decking pretty live. I don't want my opponent to get their next land drop to just, like, put this in play. F. Oh, man, if they're, like, sitting here paying costs, that probably means Murktide Regent. That's even worse. Yeah. Oh, I'm really surprised they didn't Wasteland me. I guess they're waiting on Urza Saga. How am I getting out of this now? I don't think I am. I don't have a Maze of Ith or anything, do I? No, I don't have a Maze of Ith. I have a Tabernacle. That's not gonna do it. Activate Castle Locked Wayne. I don't have the mana to actually kill my opponent here. Yeah, I think at this point I'm just dead. Like, please take this card out of my format. I'm tired of losing to it. Alright, round 2, we've gotten paired against Yorion, which might mean we're playing against Death and Taxes, or alternatively, we could be playing against some blue mid-rangey control pile. Or some crazy combo deck. Opponent is mulliganing to 5. I guess there's, like, the Yorion Cephalid Breakfast deck. Basically, my hand is pretty damn good versus, like, generic creature-y decks, and pretty bad versus a real combo deck. I'm hoping to, like, Sudden Edict my opponent on turn 1 and then Vindicate their next 2 lands, and then, like, use that time to do something meaningful. Okay. This is a little awkward for me. I think it is more important to curve out and just Vindicate my opponent's lands twice than it is, like, for them to draw a card. I have white from this. Like a basic swamp. So I will turn that Esper Sentinel into another card just so I can Vindicate your lands. I'm not going to play that out in case they are a multicolored deck. Let the hatred flow through you. If my opponent like doesn't have any lands to play cards, then it doesn't matter that I've given them extra cards. It's annoying that they played that land specifically because I can't Vindicate it, but, you know, c'est la vie. Retrofitter Foundry is a great draw for me because it gives me something to do with my mana on the turns where I've just, like, bricked on draws. Would love to find a Crucible to get Crucible Wasteland going. By the way, at this point, I am assuming my opponent is not on Death and Taxes, and they are on some sort of multicolored blue pile. Like, they can go in a couple of directions. It can be an Esper Vial direction. It can be a Stoneblade direction. Like, they've got options. Give me a Vindicate target. Alright, they are fetching. If they're doing it once, I'm going to assume that they're going to do it twice as well. Oh, okay, or do that. Yeah, sure. Okay. I will unfortunately have to Vindicate that rather than going after their lands. It's, like, such a gamble to, like, go after the Tundra and, like, risk the entire game on it. It sounds very fun to me. And it's, like, very cheeky. But unless I draw, like, a Thoughtseize, that's probably not happening. Ooh. I like that. So we'll save the Vindicate, as it's a little more flexible than Liliana is. Make them junk that. And I can end up turning my Servo into a flyer a little bit later. Crash in for 1. Opponent's at 17. I think the turn that they miss a land drop is the turn that this game effectively ends. Not this turn. Alright, Skyclave is reasonable. I'm gonna take out this Lily. Oh, wow, no, okay. Sure. So let's go ahead and sacrifice my Servo, turn it into a flyer. Huh. Okay, so the next question is, am I going after the Skyclave so my opponent can never blink it? Probably. I don't think like, since my opponent hit that land drop, I don't think I get to, like, lean further into that. So let's put the map in play. Let's get rid of this creature. This is gonna open me up to an attack while also emptying my hand, which is relevant because then I get to do that and turn Liliana's ability into a more one-sided effect. Alright, opponent was gonna hit land drops forever. Noted. I don't know exactly how many land drops their deck is playing, but the answer is probably a lot. Then I have their next creature handled with Liliana if that's something that I need to do. I can search up an Urza Saga with this expedition map and be a relatively large creature. Prismatic Ending. Absolutely. I've still nice. So I can go 2 mana search that puts me up to a 3rd mana for Liliana. That's all fine and good. I'll take my attack first though. Send in my little token friends. Chip away at the life total. Rack an expedition map. Grab an Urza Saga. Play it. Drop Lily. Yeah. And we're doing that one-sided discard again. Lily is not quite as good as she used to be. When the card was first printed, it was just like absolutely everywhere. And now it just kind of falls flat in comparison to like post-fire design cards for the most part, right? Like when you're competing with like the Murktide Regents, the Uros, the Teferis, and things of that nature, the Urza Sagas. This card doesn't quite stack up as well as it used to. Still one of my favorite cards, though. Like, absolutely near and dear to my heart. Like, I played a lot of Magic in like the Innistrad era. Like, not that I'm not now, right? But like that was a very fundamental time for me as a Magic player, where like I was really kind of starting the competitive grind, playing multiple formats. Opponent seems to have a really tough brainstorm here, which is understandable because they're dealing with 2 onboard creatures, an an upcoming Urza Saga, and an Edict slash discard machine. All right. What are they junking? A Force of Will. Yep. Wait, they had Brainstorm and Force of Will, or oh no, they must have brainstormed into the Force of Will, and then not had a blue card to pair with it, or maybe like a Skyclave in hand or something. Oh right, the Batterskull. Sure, that's fine. Like I am not worried about that. I can just minus target you, get that germ out of the way, play a sphere, crash in for 2, puts my opponent to 10. I'll make an Urza Saga token, make another Urza Saga token, and then Pithing Needle the Batterskull. And that should wrap things up, I think. Seeing a bounce, or are we seeing a Yori into hand? What are we looking at? It is a Stoneforge Mystic, absolutely. Juko. Okay, so we are playing against Cephalid Breakfast. Jig is up. That is a thing that matters. All right. So is my opponent just dead next turn? Guess that's my current question. Very close to it. I just go, yeah, make my construct. I've already used Retrofitter Foundry this game, right? That's an XL? Yeah. All right, so that's a 5/5. It's about to be a 6/6. I guess I should actually just Pithing Needle Shuko, so I don't just die to the top deck combo. Let's do that. All right. Pithing Needle Shuko. Play out a new land. I will Lily minus and just take that critter out of the way so that Batterskull can't be activated now that I've pivoted my plan. And this hits my opponent for 8, which I believe should be good enough most of the time to get over the finish line here, right? Okay, so we are playing against Yori and Cephalid Breakfast. I did a video on that deck recently. I think it is extremely bad. I really do not like what the Yorian package offers to that deck personally. Okay, what do I want here? Full Guide Lantern is good. Plague Engineer is good. Opposition Agent is probably good enough. How is Chains? Chains is probably okay. Like, the Surgicals are a little awkward in that They can be good at stopping the combo, and they're not great versus the fair portion of the deck with just like Stoneforge and Batterskull and Kaldra. I have a lot of ways I can kind of tailor this deck. I don't know that I really like Smallpox. It's very good against Stoneforge Mystic, and then otherwise kind of medium. Assuming opponent has like some Baleful Strix type cantrippy creatures, Skyclaves and whatnot. Wonder if Opposition Agent is good enough on the draw. Also, same question about Sphere of Resistance, though. Sphere doesn't seem great here, because my opponent's actual combo pieces don't actually cost that much mana. I think I'm going to junk this on the draw for these, and then I don't really feel great about these on the draw either. I do that, I think I need to replace it with this. Not 100% sure how I'm supposed to approach this matchup. Sorry, I should finish that thought. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to approach this matchup on the draw. I think on the play, I can lean into what my deck is normally supposed to do. I will need a third land here in 2 or 3 draws, but I think this is fine. It's a little awkward if my Mox Diamond eats a Prismatic Ending, though. I will still keep it, though. I have a lot of mana sources in this deck. I intentionally built this version with more than enough mana sources so that I could compensate for my Smallpox losing me stuff, as well as the Urza Saga's disappearing. Alright, there is a Shuko. Okay. I will Mox Diamond, discard Tabernacle, play Swamp, and attempt Chains. There's worlds where it's correct to just, like, hold these up instead. But if I play the game living fully in fear of the combo the entire time and not respecting the fair side, it probably doesn't go well for me. Alright, well. This is what I came here to do in this league, right? GG? Aww. Alright, that's fine. The opponent was thinking last turn whether or not they wanted to spell pierce my chains, and they decided on no. I can Crucible and play out a Tabernacle this turn. I don't think I'm going to do that. Like, I can't leave up either white or 2 mana for Sudden Edict, and I don't just want to randomly fold to my opponent just, like, drawing the combo. Yeah, same thing here. I'm fine with this. Okay, there is a Brainstorm. So now Chains starts coming into play. So if a player would draw a card, except for the first one they draw on each one of their draw steps, they discard a card instead. If they discard a card, they draw a card. So this is going to be a series of discard, draw, discard, draw, discard, draw, put 2 back, which is not going to work out the way they want it to. It will let them look pretty deep, but in terms of card advantage, it's a loss. Okay, so they do have a land now. That's fine. And they've got an Unearth. Okay. I'm good with that. I think I'll just Sudden Edict that creature away, so that's easier for me to hold up Swords to Plowshares. Then I have an actual win condition in play. Oh, that's really good. I think I'm going to try to catch the fetch land at some point. Oh, fine. Prismatic Ending on my Mox Diamond. That's annoying, because I'm trying to hold up this Swords to Plowshares. Alright. So, like, I now, like, don't get to eat their land off Marsh Flats, but, like, it already would have been a black producing land anyway, so, like, that is what it is. Okay. So, they have a dual land instead of a swamp. Yeah, okay. So, in case you haven't seen this before, here's how this works. So, the Shuko is going to repeatedly be equipped to Cephalid Illusionist. So, when this becomes the target of a spell or ability, the opponent mills 3 cards. So they are going to mill their entire deck this way, getting a bunch of Narcomoebas in play. Once they do that, they are going to sacrifice the Narcomoebas to Dread Return in order to go and return a Thassa's Oracle, and their deck will be empty, and then they will win the game. So let's fast forward a bit to when this actually happens. Oh, opponent is not... Oh, okay, opponent just moved to their second main phase to just check and see if I had surgical. Sure. Alright, so they are Cabal Therapying me now, just to kind of check. They're not done milling themselves out yet, but as you can see, like, the Thassa's Oracle is here. The Dread Return is here as well. Okay, now this next activation will cause them to fully mill, and we can kind of take a quick scan of their deck here. Interesting things. I see a Palace Jailer. I see a Serenity, a Plague Engineer. That's all fine. There's 2 Esper Sentinels. So it doesn't look like opponent it was playing the Cauldra for this game. And that Spell Pierce was a one of. Okay. Got good information. I'm on the draw. Sorry, when I'm on the play, I can kind of shift things a little bit if I'd like. Suppose I also could have played this game in a way where I just like threw Plague Engineer out there on like Narcomoeba or whatever creature type Narcomoeba is, and like used that to get a couple points of damage in. Also, I played over conservatively by holding up my mana. If opponent plays out the game using the same cards that are in their deck, I really want the Surgical Extractions. But they definitely can shift their plan as well. I don't really like Tabernacle here. Tabernacle can become a Surgical without me really caring about that. Most of the rest of my cards are reasonable. Like, I could cut Opposition Agent. It's a little slow, but it's good at stopping Stone Forges, and sometimes it snags a fetch land or whatever as well. I think I'm just going to be okay with this. My opponent does not have the time to like be chilling here and letting their clock tick down, by the way. Like, they are down over 6 minutes now. Okay. So this is a reasonable hand that doesn't quite do anything yet that I think I'm still going to keep. I don't play Pithing Needle on 1. I save Pithing Needle to see if it needs to like answer a Stoneforge or a Shuko or whatever. This is essentially a mana denial hand. It's like Vindicate, Crucible, Wasteland. Like, that's the plan. Maybe even Expedition Map for another Wasteland. This is going to be medium, a medium minus versus a like fast combo hand, and pretty good versus a slow derpy hand. And on that note, like, my opponent needs to like either pick up their pace of play significantly or mulligan to a fast combo hand, because they've lost 2 or 3 minutes making their mulligan decision here. All right, Flagstone's map go, and we'll see what they get up to over here. A prismatic ending on my map. That's fine. It means I don't really know what to do with my mana on my turn, though, unfortunately. I don't really want to just Pithing Needle blind here. So I think I'll just hold up mana and kind of accept the awkwardness. And kind of hope to Vindicate a land or something. And then go towards Crucible Wasteland. That's all fine. No shuffle off the ponder, so they found something they like. I think I'm just going to fetch a Scrubland out of my deck here. I saw my opponent's deck. I know I don't have to worry about back to basics or anything like that here. Nice. I think I'm just going to take my time here and just take some chip damage from my opponent's creatures. Again, don't know exactly what I want to Pithing Needle yet, so I think I'll just kind of slow my roll in that regard. All right, sure. Stoneforge would be pretty legit here for my opponent. Yep. So if my opponent gets something threatening like Cauldra, I name Stoneforge, and otherwise I just name Shuko. That's fine. I will take my 1. Not ready for that yet. Go ahead and do this. Play Pithing Needle. Pay the 1. Name Shuko, and then kind of make that Stoneforge disappointing unless my opponent happens to have either Batterskull or Cauldra in their hand already. Yeah, your Brainstorm's fine. I can put back the Shuko. Does make my Pithing Needle play awkward, but like, say la vie, right? The Cauldra being in hand innately after being sideboarded out for last game would be rough. Okay. I was waiting to pay costs on something and decided not to. Does that mean they've got a Brainstorm or something? Surgical Extraction. Okay. How much do I care about this stuff? A little bit. I think I'm always playing Urza Saga this turn. And then it's a question of, like, do I want my opponent to draw cards? I think I'm willing to give my opponent one card to put this Crucible in play. And once this Crucible is in play, I can just, like, use this to continue making my land drops, recur Urza Saga, and then potentially not really have to cast spells for the rest of the game. Yeah, it was a brainstorm as I expected. I kind of have like 2 layers of protection versus the combo as of right now, so I feel okay about that. Like, they can fall apart, like opponent can Prismatic Ending a Pithing Needle or whatever. Okay, another Stoneforge Mystic. That's not actually scary unless opponent has Cauldra. Horrifying if opponent does have Cauldra. Yeah, if they just have Batterskull, that's kind of whatever. Hardcast a Narcomoeba. Sure. I'm going to take some chip damage on the ground here. But my Urza's Saga is going to stabilize a lot of what's happening here. I'm just going to play a Wasteland from Graveyard and kind of call it a turn, I think. I'd love to draw a Plague Engineer at this point. Like, just taking out multiple of these bodies at the same time so that, like, the Vindicates and Lilies can start chipping away at the rest of them sounds really good to me. As opponent just going to, like, hardcast the Batterskull and then crash in for a bunch. Okay, Shuko, sure. Okay, just the Narcomoeba, sure. That's fine for now. So, let's make a construct. The 3/3, it's about to be bigger than that. Apparently much bigger than that. There's a decent number of worlds where I'm just wastelanding my opponent multiple times this turn, so I'm going to leave this land up. Alright, they're 4/4s. They're about to become 5/5s. Make them even larger than that, but I think having Soul Guide Lantern as an additional layer of protection just sounds good as well. You're probably not getting any of that stuff back, and I'd like to be able to surgically extract Prismatic Ending if the game goes in that direction. The ground is held. Now the thing I need to do is just make sure that my opponent can't equip that Batterskull to a flyer. So I'm going to junk that land, replay Wasteland, junk this land, call it a turn, I think. So we'll get end of turn, Stoneforge Mystic activation for Batterskull. Also, it's very realistic that I'm just playing towards a timeout at this point. Like, I'm up about 10 minutes on clock. Opponent's in the red. All right, I will take my 1 point of damage. That's totally fine. If my opponent goes for equips on this, I can then just Vindicate the creature on the following, the Batterskull itself on the following turn. I think that's fine. Urza Saga or Wasteland? Wasteland's really good if they go like non-basic land into non-basic land. So I think I'm going to do that. Cast this. Pay for it both times. And that's a Spell Pierce. That's totally fine. Yep, we'll just hold the ground here. Our opponent is shoving in with the Batterskull. I'll go ahead and block. They use a removal spell on this token. They will also eat this token. But it'll be a trade. I think I'm okay with that. Like, this might purely be my opponent trying to gain 4 life when they know a re-equip is in their future. Okay, that is indeed what's happening. That's fine. Not great for me. Do I want to cash this in looking for a card here? I have a Surgical for if my opponent goes for the combo. I don't know. This helps to grow a future Urza Saga token from here. Maybe not. Thoughtseize isn't great. My life total's super relevant right now. So this will be Urza Saga. Probably use my mana to Lily this turn. Let's Lily. I'll pay the extra for Esper Sentinel. All right, that's done. I think I will just Edict my opponent. It just takes a Stoneforge Mystic off the board in all likelihood, but opponent started to activate a Stoneforge Mystic and then realized they didn't have the right colors of mana, or maybe that they didn't have to. Okay, there is a fetch. Okay, that's a Batterskull bounce. That's fine. I'm trying to get into the situation where I just get to Vindicate that thing. I think I can just deal with most of this stuff. The Urza Saga tokens over time. Again, opponent, like, you gotta... Ooh, I don't know if it was correct to play that out. Yeah, that's A-okay with me. I'll presumably take 3 here, and Liliana will die. Correct in my assumption. Okay. What to do? My Urza Saga token is a 4/4, which can trade with the Batterskull Germ. Might just need to let my opponent draw a couple of cards with Esper Sentinel. Just answer this Batterskull forever so it can't get equipped on Archamoeba. Alternatively, I just double Wasteland my opponent, and then just block with an Urza Saga Construct token. I don't really want to play this game forever, though. Yeah, I don't want to play this game forever. I think I need to just answer this. Tap that wrong. Should have left up the ability to play Opposition Agent. I don't think I do in just about any world, but I should have. Okay. Backlive's very good. I assume this has to take out Crucible of Worlds. Yep. Otherwise, my recursive, like Urza Saga's just continuously looping is just so powerful. I will take my regularly scheduled point of damage from a Narcomoeba, and make a critter. Mox Diamond is legit. So let's make a construct, get a Mox Diamond, discard Castle Lochtwain. I am not going to be paying life for that, and I'll just leave up Opposition Agent. Actually, do I want to double Wasteland my opponent here? Maybe not double. Then I don't leave up Opposition Agent anymore. Single Wastelanding them sounds good, though. Now I'm mostly just playing towards a clock-based victory. Make my... Oh, nice. I will go ahead and nab their land with Opposition Agent, which is really strong here. Fine. Okay, that's fine. Additional flyers are very good for my opponent. That's fine. I have the graveyard very much covered here. I will take my 1 point of damage. Call it a turn. So that is a 4-mana Edict. I'm playing around Esper Sentinels. That's okay. Not great, just okay. Again, really need something like a Plague Engineer that can take multiple bodies out of the way at the same time. That's annoying. Not a lot I can do about that. I think I'll go ahead and Edict my opponent now, paying for both of those. And then opponent becomes the Monarch, and I don't really get to challenge that. I also get to eat one of my constructs. Yeah, so I'm going to take 2 a turn from that. That's not great. So now the question is, like, do I need to crack this Soul Guide Lantern to draw a card? I might need to. My situation is kind of dire. If my opponent just, like, shoves 2 turns in a row, I probably lose. Let's draw a card. Chains is a thing.
Chains is good against Palace Jailer.
Alright. This is not great for me. Pay to prevent that. Pay to prevent that. And then starting next turn, I'm in a better position versus the Palace Jailers and Esper Sentinels, and I can try to just play out cards. That's annoying. That takes my Sudden Edict. Ooh, I took my Surgical. They just have the combo in hand? Or are they just like, yeah, your creatures don't matter. That's fine too. Alright. So take your card. Love a Plague Engineer. Nope. I'm actually going to do this. So if I pay for these, I still have... Yeah, I can just pay for these. This grows my construct, and now, since I've used these triggers already, I can go ahead and Sudden Edict my opponent. And I think I'll take them off this Tundra as well. Just make it harder for them to play something like a Skyclave Apparition that impacts my board. I need a Plague Engineer so badly. I've been asking for one for many turns. I have not gotten one for Christmas yet. Go to 7. Swords to Plowshares. If my opponent shoves everything sideways, might be able to do something to spin this game. Okay, that's fine. My opponent got the Plague Engineer that I was asking for. That's very rude. Yeah, okay, so opponent is shoving. I'll pay to prevent these. Pay to prevent these. Get another blocker out of this situation. I have 2 different 3/3s. Block one of these. Block one of these. Take a decent amount of damage. I'm at 2 life. Myth realized is not what I'm looking for at this point. Um, Not really anything at instant speed that I can do here. I think my opponent gets one more attack step in 22 seconds very easily. I'll pay for that. I'm just going to try to take as many game actions as I can here and see if I can take enough time off the clock to randomly get the win. I believe the answer is overwhelmingly no. But, is what it is. That's not going to do it. All right. I will now put a lore counter on Myth Realized and then concede the game. Like, opponent's got it. All right. I bottomed out pretty hard there in terms of drawing relevant cards in the second half of that game. I really did not need much. Oh, I can't even look at my next couple of cards. I didn't need much to seal the deal there. All right. I'll be keeping my round 3 opening hand here. It's pretty good versus combo and kind of mediocre versus a lot of other stuff. Like Liliana is. Oh, okay. Liliana is not necessarily the game carrying card as it used to be, as kind of like I mentioned in a previous round. But like with the ability to cast a Thoughtseize into a Liliana with kind of like a wasteland in the middle to bridge, like that's fine. Definitely worried here. Like opponent Thoughtseized me and took the most relevant card to my hand. I gotta play a Mox Diamond this turn. Actually, maybe I don't. My mana's a little awkward. Yeah, let's not. Like, I don't want my Mox Diamond to get taken by another discard spell. But if I, by some stroke of fate, am happening to play the Mirror, I really don't want to lose the Mox Diamond to a prismatic ending. Okay. So, it's going to be Mox Diamond, discard. Play the Urborg, since this is black already. I'll play out the Flagstones, I guess, and Edict this Bob. Oop. Retap that mana and get Bob out of the way. Could be playing against some sort of Dead Guy Ale deck. Could be playing against like a Douthie Voidwalker combo deck. Okay, there's a second color. Well, potentially a second color. Am I plussing this Liliana? I don't really think I am. I think I want to hold up Sudden Edict for an end of turn opposition agent. And just like have another Lily for later as an actual like follow-up edict. Alright, so there's Myth Realized. Just like holding this Lily does mean that like I will get another cast trigger off of this at some point. So I think I'm just good with the cards in my hand. Okay. So there is the. Oh, okay. It is just another swamp. There is the opposition agent I expected. And I will just go ahead and sudden edict my opponent now. I think leaving up Mox Diamond for the unlikely scenario where I need to activate Myth Realized on my opponent's turn for some reason. Alright, good stuff. Okay, there's a Wasteland for my Wasteland. That's not that big a deal. Now I'm still in a slightly awkward position regarding Liliana of the Veils. I'll go ahead and plus now, I think. I'll discard a Lily. Opponent discards a Plague Engineer. I will play a new Lily. Keep the one with higher loyalty. And I'll immediately plus it. If my opponent plays another Plague Engineer. Or not Plague Engineer, another opposition agent. Oh, I got a Castle Locktwin there. Okay, dodged another opposition agent. Although it wouldn't have killed my Lily anyway. This is probably going to be the recommended round for this video, right? Like, the air quotes mono black mirror. Alright, opponent's paying costs on something. Nope. Okay. That's an Unearth. Hell yeah. I'm into what you got going on over there, opponent. I'm going to minus make you sacrifice a creature. Going to put a lore counter on Myth Realized. I'm not sure if I actually take the attack. Like, I can just try to wait out my opponent and, like, not expose this creature to a sudden edict. Or I can just say, like, hey, if you sudden edict this creature, this air quotes creature, like, you're empty, I have a planeswalker on board. I'll accept that. You got it? Fatal Push, sure. Might not be playing patiently enough there. but I think I'm good with it. Becomes awkward if like opponent plays an opposition agent or something in response to a Lily plus. Like opposition agent having flash specifically is really annoying. Okay, opponent just drew a land. Yeah, yeah, that's fine. So this is a cool interaction that hasn't come up yet, right? So I'm going to cast a Smallpox. I'm going to sacrifice my flagstones. Now, when this goes to the graveyard, I get to go and search up a new land. So I will just convert that into a basic plains. I will get to go ahead and plus Liliana's loyalty. Okay, the opponent just kind of drew a card and couldn't do anything with it. All right, there's a Sphere of Resistance. There's a Lily plus. Opponent just had another land. All right, so we're okay. I think opponent has officially given up on the game. Yeah. Yep. All right. Good stuff. All right. What do I want for this pseudo mirror? I want more removal, and I want more win conditions if possible. We'll probably play Curse Scroll, Felidar Retreat, Swords, Opposition Agent, Plague Engineer. Like I want to play to the board as much as possible. My Thoughtseize is probably go. This is a game that is going to go forever. Do I just cut the spheres? Like, I need to be answering, like, Bobs and opposition agents and such. Like, my whole, like, Wasteland Crucible lock is not particularly good. So, like, super, super long-term picture of how I win is Crucible Urza's Saga. That's my plan. How do I supplement the plan with the last couple cards? I don't want to lose life from Thoughtseize. A Hymn is fine. It's a little slow on the draw. And it's a bad top deck. I could just, like, play a Soul Guide Lantern. I think it's one Soul Guide Lantern, Thoughtseize Hammer, Sphere. Like, Sphere just makes my creatures larger. Or my Urza Saga Construct tokens larger. That might be a reason to play one. Sure? I think that last card choice is pretty tough. I also wonder if this is a matchup where you take the draw. I think I keep this hand. Like, it's action light, but Smallpox is probably very good. That was a little awkward if I get Thoughtseized and lose the Smallpox. But I think it's okay. I play Wasteland on 1. And do Urborg Smallpox on 2. That feels good to me. Alright. Yep, there's a Bob. I will indeed kind of continue with the smallpox plan that I had from the inception of the hand. Yep. Alright. Urborg, Smallpox. I don't think this is a Wasteland game. So let's junk that. I'll sacrifice my other Wasteland as well. Alright, sacrifice that. Okay, I got a Liliana out of my opponent's hand. Not bad. So we'll see if my opponent has more swamps. If they don't, they're in trouble, because I can Vindicate another land 2 turns from now. If they just play like another Bob, I just Sudden Edict it, and I'm in pretty good shape. Alright, how good was that? It took both my spells good. That's pretty good. Alright, I drew a Sudden Edict. If I were to get hymned again, is it more important for me to have access to white mana, or is it more important for me to have access to a Castle Locked Wayne that I can draw cards with later? Close. I think I'm going to go with the castle. I could probably sit there and think about that for 3 or 4 minutes and, like, math it out, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Unearth a Bob, absolutely. Unearth is pretty cool. I like the tech. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, do I play that? I probably play that. Let's tap these 2. Past the Smallpox. I think I sack my Urborg there. I just want to keep my opponent from casting 3-drop Haymakers like Liliana and Opposition Agent for now. I'm low on gas. Okay, yeah. So I've stuck them on 1 land. Good news for me. And we'll kind of see how the top deck war goes. Opponent needs lands. I need stuff to do. Myth realized again. Okay. So this is white to activate Ref. Yeah. So I can't start chipping in for damage. I can as of next turn. It's not a lot, and it's like somewhat likely that I just eat a Fatal Push or something. Sure. This does have Shadow. Alright, I can hit in for 1 point of damage, but I think I'd rather just put a lore counter on one of these. I think that is going to be worth significantly more damage over time. I'll take my 3 from Dalthy Voidwalker this turn. I'm not, like, worried about the clock of just one of these. If my opponent plays a second or something, things can get a little scary. Rotting Regisaur. Alright, speaking of scary, scary is here. And we're going to start stacking up one of these in the hopes of making one that can maybe rumble with that in combat. Urza Saga can potentially rumble in combat. Alright. Go ahead and pass the turn here. I will probably be drawing a card with Castle Locktwain rather than putting a lore counter on Myth Realized. I need to hit removal spells pretty quickly. I'm going to start throwing Myth Realized under the bus next turn. I didn't really want to do that this turn. I'm hoping to just draw an out to this and then, like, draw another card that beats Dalthy Voidwalker. Okay. I think I'll be okay. I think I'm leaving the Rotting Regisaur in play. Good opponent discards. Murderous Rider. Yeah, so I think I'm going to make an Urza Saga token this turn. Chump block Rotting Regisaur, Swords to Plowshares, Dalthy Voidwalker. And then go from there, depending on what my draw is, and just plan on blocking Rotting Regisaur for a while. Yeah. Swords to Plowshares, the Voidwalker. And, like, I can potentially just get to the point where I, like, grow these Myth Realized to be larger than the Rotting Regisaur. Oh, no, don't have follow-up cards. Yeah. I wanted that for a trigger. Alright. What's my draw here? Is a land. Alright, so I can Pithing Needle the Liliana. Yeah, let's plan on that. So do this. Make my creature. I think it has to be the Pithing Needle just in terms of tempo here. Liliana of the Veil. Play my land drop. Call it a turn. And I can throw a lot of stuff under the bus to get Rotting Regisaur out of play. If I feel like, oh god. Oh, they're using that to draw a card with Castle Locktwain. Sure. There's a lot of worlds where that ends up, like, not producing playable things. Okay, so I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 power. I can trade literally everything and clear Rotting Regisaur and leave us in about the same position. Or I can do a chump block and try to draw removal for Rotting Regisaur that leaves me with these Myth Realized. How many removal spells do I have that kills Rotting Regisaur? 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. I can't count those. 13, 14, 15, kind of. That is a lot of draws. I think I'm going to chump block with my weaker Myth Realized this turn. Because there's a lot of worlds where next turn I can be in the same situation, but with a larger Myth Realized. Okay, that is a real draw. My opponent just discards this card most of the time, unless it's like an instant speed removal spell or an opposition agent. Fuck. Yeah. Alright, so I lose this construct token. That means I'm chump blocking with Myth Realized this turn. Unless... yeah, let's fetch. Go to 3. Grab a scrub land. Actually, I guess I don't want to... no, I do want to activate this now, because I want to see if I draw exactly Swords to Plowshares. Becomes a little awkward if my opponent's one card is exactly Thoughtseize. Alright, it is a Smallpox. Alright. So the Rotting Regisaur is going to crash in. I animate with this. I've ended up in the situation where it was worse for me to continue doing what I was doing, rather than just, like, trade 3 things for the Regisaur. Classic. Classic punish. Okay. I play Swamp. I activate Urza Saga to chump block. I remain in this awkward position trying to draw an out to Regisaur. Opponent's very ahead here. Like, as soon as they draw a land and can start activating their own Castle Locktwain. Kind of in the shit. Alright, token. Hope my opponent doesn't have Fatal Push. Why do I talk? Why do I say words while playing Magic the Gathering? Yeah, that was like, I am only punished by specific things. Alright, called him. I don't know how many unearths my opponent is playing. Like, Soul Guide Lantern seems kind of medium to me. Like, it can slot in, but it's definitely kind of medium. I could junk one land to bring in the Soul Guide Lantern. Like, that does cantrip as well. Like, my opponent's usually only going to have a single creature at a time. Tabernacle's not exactly fantastic. Let's try this. And I think my opponent's hymns are better than my hymns because, like, they have more threats than I do, and they are the Dark Ritual deck. Yeah, this is fine. This is a hand where I am probably just playing Urza Saga out on one and making my opponent deal with it. So this is going to be Mox Diamond. Probably just discard Swamp. I'm already going to be vulnerable to Wasteland. Play out Urza Saga. Play out Myth Realized. And the big thing that would punish my line here is Dark Ritual into him to Turok hitting Scrubland. Otherwise, I'm pretty good about, like, the value train that I have created. Alright, Urza Saga can tick up. I am not going to play Marsh Flats into Dark Ritual Opposition Agent and just, like, lose the game on the spot because of it. Let's just play Scrub. Alright, no end of turn play there. Alright. What's your line? A Dark Ritual into a kicked Turok, which will make me discard 2 cards. I think I just say okay to that. Like, I can Sudden Edict it with trigger on the stack and then lose these 2 cards, but I give up a Construct token in order to do that. I value these Construct tokens very highly here. There's also just a world where I randomly keep the Sudden Edict that's in my hand. It is not this world. The Turok's big. I am hoping to make my constructs just bigger than that. Alright. So they're 3/3s. And I think this is going to be... How big is Turok currently? 4/3? I think this is a Retrofitter Foundry situation, and just go wide. My opponent is currently tapped out for the purposes of something like an opposition agent. I should probably use this opportunity to go ahead and fetch. Grab a Scrubland. 2 mana to create a thing, so I don't really want to take advantage of that now. I don't want to offer Turok for a construct token, because my things are just going to be bigger as of next turn. In terms of resources, I'd say this game is pretty close. My opponent has more things in hand. I have more things on board. Okay. Given this situation, am I now attacking with these 4/4s? I think I'm now attacking with these 4/4s. There's worlds where this ends up getting bigger if I discard more cards later. Send them. Mox Diamond is also off, just for those keeping track at home. Yeah, okay, opponent was not willing to take the trade. Alright, Turok is not crashing in. Maybe I should... Oh, never mind. My god, what a fucking draw. Absolutely. So I will do this pre-combat because these grow into 5/5s for me doing this. Now I could choose to play a white from the graveyard and attack with an extra body. But that's not really producing lethal, so let's just grind that value and send my card sideways. Yeah, opponent fucked up. Opponent should have used Sudden Edict in response to my opposition agent so I don't get the ability to sacrifice the opposition agent. Yeah, because I had put them on not having that card because they didn't take that line on my end step. Obviously was wrong, but like had put them on that line. Wow, opponent is going to 2. So I'm probably going to have 2 lethal attackers and a lethal myth realized a good portion of the time as well. Yeah, that's fine. Like, this one is a 4/4 right now, and currently, at this exact moment, dies to Turok, but that's not true long term. Wow, another Urza Saga. I think Sorcery Speed... Actually, is there even a reason to do that? Not Sorcery Speed. Not really. Right, let's play a new Urza Saga. Animate Earth Realized, activate Urza Saga, animate Myth Realized again. Be fine for me to go ahead and animate this. Go to combat. Crash in. Opponent blocks this. And then I just go ahead and put a lore counter on this creature to do lethal damage to my opponent. Alright, good stuff. Fun round. Alright, round 4, I think I'll be keeping my opening hand. My mana is a little awkward in that I don't have access to black, but I have a handful of reasonable Magic the Gathering cards that I can play, and an Urza Saga that I can kind of lean on. Cursed! I don't think I want this scrubland to be wastelanded. I think I want to be able to use this to play Sudden Edict. So I think I'm going to play Myth Realized into a Daze here, assuming that we are playing against Delver. Pretty safe assumption when you see Scalding Tarn on the other side of the battlefield these days. So it's a little weird that there's no creature or no cantrip in the first turn cycle from Delver. So, like, could be wrong. Alright. Yes. Okay. Could be playing against something else here. Okay, that's multiple snow-covered islands. My internal deck-o-meter, or whatever you want to call it, is currently pointing in the direction of show and tell. So I think this turn needs to be Thoughtseize. So let's try that. Oh, okay. Nope, something very different. This is going to be a slog. I think I need to take the Teferi. The bounce ability is just going to be really strong against a lot of the things that I have going on right now. And I'll just kind of use the rest of my mana to do a poke for 1. Not having access to the black is pretty rough with this hand. With, like, Snapcaster Source of Plowshares, my opponent is pretty well suited to dealing with an Urza Saga without it being... Oh, okay, never mind. I thought for sure my opponent was just going to, like, drop a Narset. I was wrong, and they've chosen to shuffle. I can Tabernacle and be annoying, but seeing as I'm about to deploy an Urza Saga, I don't think I want to do that. I think this is just going to be Urza Saga past the turn, with the plan being probably put a counter on Myth Realized, maybe Sudden Edict the Snapcaster Mage to just clear that out. I'm willing to take 2 damage before I make that decision, I think. See what my opponent finds off the Narset. A Force of Will. Okay, opponent is holding back this. Given that information, I think I will go ahead and Sudden Edict them for the worlds that I can take out this creature, potentially with Myth Realized. Although my opponent's Source of Plowshares means that's not really a thing. But, like, opponent valued the defensive option. Ooh. Ooh, I like that. This will just be play Wasteland, cast a new Myth Realized, growing the original, and then just make an Urza Saga construct token. And I can let my opponent get another card out of the Narset without it being a big deal. And then I'll see where I go with Urza Saga. I mean, that's super awkward, right? Because then my opponent does that. It gives me extra life, so, like, I still do it. But, like, the whole ending the turn thing with my opponent having that Source of Plowshares in hand is just awkward. Alright. Liliana. Okay. Cool. Let's fire this off. Always want the value off of that, I think. Oh, I can Pithing Needle that Prismatic Vista and then make it so that my opponent can never stop their Narset from dying. Good with that. Like that quite a bit. Alright, Myth Realized. Get Narset for exactly the correct amount of damage. It dies. Do I play Urborg? Urborg turns that into a colorless land rather than a, like, land that does nothing. But I kind of want to empty my hand for the purposes of Liliana, so I think I'm good with it. It's awkward, but, like, guaranteeing that my opponent cannot keep that Narset alive, get another activation out of it, or do, like, another Days Undoing type thing feels pretty important to me. I really want to Pithing Needle to Fairy in this matchup specifically, but don't always get what you want. Let's begin with a Thoughtseize and then sculpt the rest of my plan from there. Trigger those Myth Realized. Ooh. Be a Force of Will? I'm so good with Hardcast Force of Will. It is a Hardcast Force of Will. I can just hit my opponent with 2 Myth Realized this turn rather than play Liliana. That's probably correct. Like, I really want to slam this Liliana well. It's pretty safe, but This is a lot of damage to pass up on to resolve a Liliana, which I've already kind of established as being medium, and I don't think I am going to just blow the Wasteland on the tapped Prismatic Vista. Like, that's a colorless land. Like, it matters for things like, say, a Shark Typhoon or something, but solid. There are worlds later in this game where I will Wasteland myself. Alright, let's play Urza Saga. Use black mana from these 3 cards to cast a Liliana. We'll go ahead and Liliana plus on my opponent here. I think I go for it. There is a world where my opponent has second Brainstorm plus Terminus on top of their library, where this is a very bad thing to do. But like with my opponent being so close to dead, I think I want to just go for it here. Okay, that's a Source of Plowshares on the big one. Opponent still takes half of their life total in damage. I'm also okay going for it, like, with an onboard Urza Saga that is about to make my stuff larger. Alright, there is another Brainstorm. These Brainstorms are significantly less good by the fact that I have shut these off as actual fetch lands. What are we doing here? Prismatic Ending on the Lily. Okay. Opponent is not going for a creature there. Which is a little weird. That's interesting. So it feels like my opponent has like a Shark Typhoon, right? Like, make a 2/2, trade with one of these, take 2 damage is their plan. If they don't have Shark Typhoon, or I guess technically Snapcaster Mage to block, that line doesn't make a lot of sense. I think I'm going to fire up the Myth Realized anyway. And then let's send these. Because if I end up in a world where my opponent takes 3, then this Smallpox becomes lethal. Okay. So now that my opponent has fetched, instead of just using that for Urborg mana, okay, that's fine. This is Snapcaster Swords to Plowshares. This is a really neat situation. I can grow this via a lore counter, or I can just make another 2/2 Urza Saga token. The lore counter plan actually seems pretty good. Just like keep this annoying card in play. I don't know, maybe I should just accept the trade, grind my value. This card's so annoying though. I think I'm just gonna keep this around. Okay, they're going for it on the Myth Realized instead. They're gonna take 2 and go to 1. That's fine. They're technically dead to this Smallpox. I think I'm going to go ahead and take out their Tundra and just limit their options a little bit more. We'll see what they can do. Narset is fine. Wandering Emperor, which does cost white, an opponent cannot fetch in order to do it. Oh, that's okay. I think I win this game no matter what, though. Like, I have... Oh no, that gains them life as well. JK. That's very specifically annoying. Forgot about that portion of it. My Pithing Needle is already in play as well. Not the best for me. Get my Construct out of this. I can just Expedition Map and get another Urza Saga, or I can just, like, do Retrofitter Foundry shenanigans. I think I want another Urza Saga here. Either one of these will be great versus a Prismatic Ending. And now let's seize my opponent. The last card is a land, unfortunately. So they got a little bonus value there off their stuff. So Wandering Emperor only gives us first strike until end of turn, but like this is a nuisance. Dress down off Narset. I'm gonna be a little upset if I lose this one, I'm not gonna lie. I also wonder if that was a hasty face down, like a hasty dress down in the face of my Expedition map, which is representing another Urza Saga. I don't know for sure. Like I don't know what their density of answers is going to be. Thought seizes are awkward right now. They're not really good. I'll play it anyway. Alright, I took a Narset. That's fine. Like, that's worth doing. Grab another Saga. The Wandering Emperor was a brutal hit, like keeping my opponent out of lethal Smallpox range. Alright. Opponent get to kind of fix their hand here. If they end up naturally going to 1 on their own, like just from fetching, that's reasonable for me. What is this? Jace as well. Ugh. Life's bad. I probably lose this one at this point. It's close enough, and like I have real outs to the point where I can't really concede. But holy shit, is this bad? Ugh. Take 3, go to 14. Probably take 6, go to 8. Yeah, not good. So I'll play this. I'll make my opponent sacrifice a 2/2 Vigilant Soldier token. Oh my god. My opponent doesn't know it, but that is a huge punt. Like, that is a potentially game-losing punt, right? Because opponent does not have the loyalty to gain the life off of this. They need a counterspell or a Source of Plowshares, or they die to Smallpox for not playing around that. Wow. Alright. I'll take my 6. I'm at 8. I can't play the Sphere first, unfortunately. Alright, let's see if opponent punted. Either their draw or their Jace Brainstorm had to be an answer to this. Okay. I can top deck another one. That's frustrating though. That is absolutely frustrating. So my opponent's line should probably be attack me for 6, exile one of their own. Okay, the Jace Fate Seal accomplishes the same thing as long as the card can stay on top. I am drawing towards Smallpox specifically. All right, and they chose not to use that ability. In which case, I believe I am just dead. That's very frustrating. Like, I came within 1 life of killing my opponent multiple times. Yeah. Alright. Concede. Let's sideboard. I wish I had more things that dealt with Planeswalkers directly. I don't. We'll board in the enchantments. They're probably good here. I'll probably board in Curse Scroll. This can target Planeswalkers, right? Yeah, 2 damage to any target. Absolutely. Little Guide Lantern for Snapcaster Mage is medium. Hymns and opposition agents are medium. I don't really want Tabernacle in this matchup. The discard to keep my opponent from getting the initial Planeswalkers in play is probably pretty good. My opponent has so much card advantage on permanents, which is something that like these pox sort of decks struggle to deal with. I think if I'm winning this game, I'm winning this game off of Urza Sagas. And so I'm actually thinking about cutting my Smallpox here. Like, the advantage from destroying my opponent's lands is really high, but like the games where I win probably involve punching a hole with Thoughtseize or Hymn to Torok or something, and then like bashing with my own creatures. And I don't know that I can afford any world where I sacrifice a single one of my creatures. So let's see if I can maybe get all of this stuff in here. I could do that by playing some spheres, or like removing some spheres. I don't know how good that is. I could also go down on Mox Diamonds since they are bad versus like Teferis and Prismatic Endings. But I'm not feeling good about the matchup, and I don't expect to win. Okay, this is a pretty reasonable opening hand. I'll keep this. I have a lot of decisions in terms of like what lands I play when. They don't have anything to do with my turn 1 mana. I think I'm just gonna throw the Castle Locked into play tapped. Otherwise, like I might need to play Urborg on turn 1. I don't really want to make my opponent's lands tap for more mana if I don't have to. I'm gonna opt to just put the Sphere into play early this game and like treat this as my bait spell. It just makes my opponent's Force of Wills and Force of Negations noticeably worse. So it doesn't interact super well versus like a Prismatic Ending. Alright, this is just gonna be an end of my opponent's turn opposition agent here, I think. I think I'm willing to play Cabal Pit. Or no, I have my own Sphere in play. Okay, Hymn to Turok. I don't want to turn my opponent's prismatic endings into things that get rid of my own permanents until I have to. Like, if I have to, I have to. Ooh, Chains. Chains is really good as this game goes long. I think I'm going to do an end of my opponent's turn opposition agent. Although, like, there's a world where I'm just supposed to Vindicate this Plains and try to keep them off a color. I'll buy that. I don't know. Like, this answering the Planeswalkers that slip through is kind of a big deal as well. Yeah, let's do end of my opponent's turn, opposition agent, then try to untap into something meaningful. All right. Here is the attempt on the opposition agent, and Cabal Pit is no longer going to cost me life. Am I going to get this fetch land? I assume the answer is no. Yes, the answer is no. But I've probably kept my opponent from doing whatever it is they really wanted to do on this turn. All right, I have Vindicate or Chains. I think I Chains. I think the Vindicate answering a Planeswalker that slips through is more important than trying to press the mana advantage. My opponent will slip through that at some point. All right, Chains has resolved. I guess might end up in some weird situations here. If you tap out for a Jace, you can get your one Brainstorm in, and then I Vindicate it. It is a Teferi instead. It's annoying. That undoes my work with Chains. I also don't really want to Vindicate that, but I probably don't have a real choice. And maybe I do have a choice. Like, I can be left with the option to Vindicate that thing later if need be. My own sphere is not really giving me trouble. I wouldn't go that far, but I would really like to be playing multiple cards in a turn cycle right now. Yep. Fine. Like, that's why I left the white up. Any land, please. Thank you. Indicate back to basics. I think I lose. Oh, no, I can't. Sphere. All right. I will be waiting a turn. So Teferi pluses. Opponent is absolutely in the driver's seat now. Like, their hate card is more powerful than my hate cards are. And they can also just, like, plus their Teferi one more time and then start minusing it for value. I think I'll probably concede if my Vindicate on back to basics gets countered. Like, that is just such a beating that I don't think it will be worth continuing from there with, like, 6 tap lands. Okay. I cannot afford to sudden edict that. Like, I need to answer the back to basics. There's another Vindicate. That's kind of nice. But this is just very bad in terms of my prospects for the future. Because, like, every turn that I'm not answering the back to basics is just another turn for them to draw a Force of Will or Force of Negation to effectively end the game on the spot. All right, how bad? Annoying. All right. Let's see if I'm conceding. 4 mana. Attempt back to basics. Oh, they've got it. All right. At this point, I'm gonna throw in the towel. Opponent has a 5/5. 6 of my lands are tapped, or more than that, are tapped forever. Opponent has a Teferi to bounce my shit. That's not happening. All right. Final round here. I have 2 colorless lands, one of which doesn't produce mana. That's an easy mulligan. This hand is going to be a keep, and I have to decide how I'm going to play it. Like, can I afford to Smallpox and Sphere of Resistance, or does this have to be an either-or situation? Like, I can get rid of Mox Diamond and keep the highest quality of functional cards, or I can, like, keep Mox Diamond, try to play Mox into Sphere, and then have Vindicate to mop up something else. Or alternatively, I can pitch Vindicate, and then try to go Sphere into Smallpox and cheese a win that way. That sounds the most appealing to me of the options here. And then I'll just kind of... That's not fucking good. Oh, wow. What a beating. I'm screwed. Like, the Sphere of Resistance doesn't come down fast enough to stop my opponent from doing something that matters. If I Smallpox, they just go land, land, and then they get their Urza Saga tokens, and I'm woefully behind forever. Can I be the better Urza Saga deck? I guess that's what I'm trying with this hand. Then I'll, yeah. Alright, we're not anywhere near threshold, so I'm going to get rid of Cabal Pit here. Goodbye, Cabal Pit. Hello, Urza Saga. And I'll play out a Sphere, and we're going to try to be the better Urza Saga deck and get my wins that way. Not feeling good about this matchup. Like, discard's not great. eh. Eh. Okay. Absolutely. Absolutely screwed. Absolutely screwed. There's zero chance of winning this game at this point, I think. So, like, my own sphere is a hindrance to me. My opponent will just make construct into, like, a retrofitter foundry or a map or something, and, that'll be that, and we don't even need to get into, like, the life from the loam situations. Um, I think this one's over already. Like, let's not even, like, mention the fact that, like, map could also just go and get a dark depths, and, like, that also would just beat me here. Okay, there is the map. Okay. The port onto okay, no. 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 We're done. We'll try again, but, uh, the smallpox-based strategy doesn't sound good versus the life from the loam-based strategy. Neither does the sphere of resistance. So let's see what I can board in that does things and stuff. It's probably something like this. I don't want Tabernacle here. I'd rather just play a 2/2. Do I play one sphere just purely for increasing my artifact count? No, I'll play one Source of Plowshares for a Merit Lodge. Like, I have 4 Sudden Edicts and a Source of Plowshares for a Merit Lodge. Mox Diamond discards Swamp. Mox Diamond can't quite do an Urza Saga on turn 1. I would need 3 mana to do that, and I have to discard 2 of these lands in order to do that. I don't think this hand quite works. Uh, uh, uh. Mox, discard Marsh Flats, Urza Saga, Prey? Is that where I'm at? That doesn't feel good. A lot of mana sources. Tabernacle's not in the deck. I have, what two lands in hand? I have 2 lands in hand, meaning I am on 23 hits, but I lose the game if I miss. So I'm a little below 50% to turn this into a keepable hand. I'm still just losing to a Wasteland. Lilianas aren't great. I think I'm just going to mulligan to 5. I hate this so much. I guess at this stage, I just need to keep a hand. I'm going to pitch Edict. I pitch Edict, Thoughtseize. I pitch Edict, Thoughtseize. I don't know. Taking an Exploration is really important. Maybe I just pitch the Needle, put it back in the deck for Urza Saga later. Try to take an Exploration. But like this doesn't have winning pieces, but I don't know that I can really afford to go to 4. Let's see what this takes. Okay, I took an Exploration. That leaves my opponent with a hand of only lands. And I can play around Wasteland to a certain extent. Alright. This is acceptable. Not good, but acceptable. I'll play out the Myth Realized. Preemptively put the Lantern in play to just put a counter on the Myth Realized, more so than anything else, honestly. And, kind of at the mercy of the court here. This Rishadan port is going to be very good. Oh, the Boseiju was just played out as a land. Alright, I can't really just go ham on, like, wastelanding my opponent trying to take them off green, because Elvish Reclaimer can just find them green. I think I don't want my opponent to know Wasteland is coming. I think we're just going to go Urborg, pass with the intention of putting a counter on Myth Realized. Okay, so opponent has multiple green sources now. We'll see if they start working towards just, like, Thespian Stage, Jark Depths combo. Put my lore counter here. I guess Opposition Agent would be a sick rip. Need to play this. Playing it sucks. If I don't play it, my opponent can just go end of turn, get Dark Depths, Thespian Stage, make the critter on their own turn, and put me in a situation where I can't really do it. They can still, like, Wasteland my Wasteland and end up in a similar spot, though. Yeah. I guess if they rotate one of these out of play, I want them to rotate this one into the graveyard rather than the Boseiju. Or life from the loam based reasons. I don't want this card immediately in graveyard. Yep. Alright. I may end up in a pretty bad situation here. Okay. So due to my own Urborg, they are able to do their thing. So this means that I need to crack this and draw a card. I just get a little deeper. Destroy target permanent. Merit Lodge is unfortunately indestructible. Also turns this into a 3/4, which is a separate problem. All right. I'm going to go ahead and try to top deck something good. Nope. Nope. Gunseed. All right. That'll be the end of this league. This is a 1/4 league. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Enjoyable, not good, right? Like, and you probably knew that going into the video, right? Like, Myth Realized is like very much not a playable legacy card in the post Prismatic Ending world. In the pre Prismatic Ending world, where this thing could just like sit on the battlefield and not very many main deckable cards answered it was totally reasonable, right? Like when your opponent can answer it with like abrupt decays and assassin's trophies and things like that, like you can absolutely lean on that card and you can do good things in it. But now that most of the white decks have 4-ish prismatic endings in the main deck, like let alone any like sideboard cards that also can deal with it, like it just is so much less reliable and it's kind of a slow win condition. Also like Boseiju is a thing that's been printed now, right? So like even some of the land-based decks just have or like decks like elves also just can just oop and take that thing out of play as well. So like or a Myth Disco Pox deck, this list was okay. But like the general strategy is probably not playable. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click the like button on the way out. It helps out a lot. If you have any thoughts on the deck list, throw them in the comments and I'll take a look at those. Have a great rest of the day, folks. And if you want to get one of your own decks on the channel, remember that information, as well as my Patreon information and all that sort of stuff, is also available in the video description. See ya!